Lijep pozdrav, evo nas opet u Index studiju, a s nama je danas Paul Bradbury, glavni čovjek Total News Croatia i jedan od najnapadanijih što se tiče kritika domaćeg turizma i institucija. Jel? Danas smo ovdje prvenstveno zato jer predstavljamo novu knjigu koja je zapravo izašla tek prije 10 minuta smo upravo doznali, znači potpuno smo friški oko toga, zove se Croatia, a survival kit for foreigners. I eto, idemo znači krenut. Paul, how are you? Welcome and how are you?
Thank you, fantastic, great to be here.
Okay, you're living here for over 20 years,
Yep.
So you're basically a native now. Do you feel that way?
I feel not fully Croatian. I don't think I can ever be that. I certainly don't feel like a Westerner anymore. And I've kind of got to that sort of half world between reality and whatever it is. And I honestly, after 20 years here, a lot of people are emigrating. A lot of diaspora don't want to come back. 650,000 migrants walked through Croatia a few years ago, and I came from Manchester and chose to live here. And after 20 years, I can honestly say I love it. For me, Croatia is a mixture of living in Absurdistan with the best lifestyle in Europe, with a sprinkling of Balkan insanity on top. And I find it a really addictive mix. And as long as you don't take yourself too seriously, and you don't expect to change the world or make a million, the lifestyle here is honestly fantastic. And if you can find the right people here, and they do exist, this really is paradise.
So why Croatia? Was it something planned or was it considered?
It was actually. I'm very, very grateful to the Croatian National Tourist Board. It was their niche marketing of fat pink Englishmen in northern Somalia that did it. I was working as an aid worker in 2002 in Somaliland, and I just sold my house in the UK, and I was sharing a house with 8 African guys. It was just me, the only white guy. And I was having a gin and tonic on the terrace and thinking, where am I going to live now? I'm going to buy a house somewhere in Europe by the sea. And I came down to get another gin and tonic, and CNN was on the TV, and they had a reclama, Croatia, the Mediterranean, as it once was. And it was 30 seconds of genius from the National Tourist Board. And so because of that, I then started to research, and here I am today.
Many Croatians leave the country in search of the brighter future. So why did you choose to cross over to the dark side?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, at the moment we're doing a really interesting series called Croatian Returnee Reflections, because we have my inbox is a really interesting place to be, because I don't have any Croatian connection before I came here. And I chose to go from a civilized country, not that Britain is civilized anymore, to come and live here and make a life here without any big savings, I'm not a millionaire or anything. And I made it work because I just really, 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 really appreciate the lifestyle here. You have, and all these people that say it's really difficult, it's true. But my inbox, because I've been doing this for so long, and because I don't have any Croatian connection, and because I'm quite vocal in the media, a lot of diaspora are following Total Croatian News because here is somebody that is actually living the dream that they have and making it work. And so my inbox in the last 6 months has been much, much fuller of Croatian diaspora who have come back and who've tried. And many of them have stayed. And, and then when you have a few that gave up, I have a lot more that contact me saying, we want to come back, we don't know how, we're a bit scared, the wages, the corruption, everything. And so about a month ago, I put a post on Facebook saying that my inbox is getting quite full of these things. Does anybody want to do an interview? And we can do a series of Croatian Returnee Reflections. I had 63 emails from people who have moved from the diaspora to Croatia, and only 3 of them had bad experiences. And we've been doing these interviews 4 or 5 a week, and they've been really, really popular, and people are desperate to read this kind of stuff. So tomorrow night, we're having our first ever TCN Croatia Returnee Reflections Drinks Night at Swanky Monkey. And we've got 5 speakers. They're going to tell their story. National television's coming. And we're then going to interview all these different people, and they're going to network. And one of the big problems in Croatia I see is that a Croat can forgive you everything but success. And so everybody thinks this is a really negative country with nothing happening. And the opposite is true in my experience. There's a lot of negativity. There's also a lot of pockets of really positive stuff going on. And people don't want to put their head above so that everyone can shoot them down. And if you can network with those people, this is a phenomenal country.
Yes. So you traveled the world.
Yeah.
You've been to Russia, Somalia, in interesting times,
Yeah.
I might add. So tell us something about your adventures prior to coming to Croatia.
Okay, so I started my career as a male chambermaid cleaning toilets in a 4-star hotel in Munich. And then I upgraded to be a bellboy in a 5-star hotel where I was sort of serving the likes of Henry Kissinger and Leonard Bernstein and people like that. And then I went travelling around South America, and then I ended up studying German and Russian at Manchester. And I first went to the Soviet Union a month before it collapsed, total coincidence. And then I worked in Russia for a year and a half. First of all, I was working to import laser technology from the former Soviet Union. And then I became an aid worker. So I lived on the edge of Siberia, and I was down in the Caucasus, Tbilisi and Yerevan and Baku, and also Dushanbe. And then when I finished university, I ended up going to Rwanda in '94, which was just after the genocide. So I was there 2 weeks after the genocide finished, where they killed 800,000 people in 100 days. And but that was a really sort of life-changing experience for like 9.
In what way? So
Well,
just seeing this or something
No,
happening?
well, it played with your head because you know the first, you know, we had our team and they're all traumatized, and I remember this one kid. He was very, very friendly, very quiet, and he said to me, "Do you have any brothers or sisters?" And I said, "Yeah, I've got one brother, one sister. How about you?" And then he said, "Well, I used to have 11 brothers and sisters, but then they put us all in the yard, they lay us all down, and they put bullets through all of us. And one went through my shoulder, I played dead, and when I looked up, you know, everybody was gone. So I never asked about family after that, you know. And it was just a really weird place that, you know, such bad things had happened, and we were there so soon afterwards, and just trying to make sense of it all and to get people's lives going again. It was incredibly rewarding. I mean, I don't think I've done anything that's been more sort of meaningful in my time. And then I ended up after that back in the UK. I had a wine business with my father for 5 years. So we were going to small family growers in France, Germany, Italy, and Spain, and selling it door to door around the villages near Oxfordshire, places like that. And then I went on my big trip in 2001. I decided to walk out of my life and start again at the end of a relationship. And so I got a bit drunk one day and I said that I was going to hitchhike to South Africa. And so everybody laughed at me. And I said, okay, I'm going to do this in 3 months' time. And so I got all the Lonely Planet Africa, Lonely Planet Eastern Europe, and I made this itinerary from my pub in Oxfordshire to South Africa, and through the Caucasus, through the Balkans, through East Africa and the Middle East. And I contacted all my former aid worker friends and said, hey, I'm on this trip. Does anybody know anybody on the way? And there was a girl from Tajikistan who was now living in Albania, and then there was a friend of mine who was in Eritrea, and so on. And so I went on this amazing trip where I came to the pub at 11 o'clock on the 24th of February 2001, and I told everybody that at 11:37 I was walking out of the pub with my half-size rucksack, and I was going to walk 5 kilometres down to the motorway and put my little sign out saying South Africa, and I was going to start hitchhiking. And everybody thought, you know, what a complete joke, you know. So on the day, 25 people turned up. I went in at 11 o'clock. I had a beer. I had a second beer. And at 11:36, I was talking to my father. I had half a pint left. I realised I had 1 minute left in my old life. And so I downed my pint. I stood up. I shook his hand. I turned around to everybody and I said, guys, I really appreciate the fact you came. I'll never forget it. But now I have a life to live. And I walked out of the pub and I walked past the house we'd lived in and out of the village and down to the motorway. And I had my little sign in orange for South Africa. And it was the most liberating feeling ever. Literally just walking out and starting again at the age of 32. And when I was young, a lot of people used to hitchhike, so it was easy to get a lift. And when 20 years ago, it was a lot harder. And then people were coming down and they were going, and just laughing, you know. So I was there for about an hour, getting really depressed, and then this guy stopped and he said, "I'm really sorry, I can't take you all the way to South Africa, but I'm going to Oxford." And I jumped in the car. We went 10 miles, and my new life had begun. And after that, it was just, and it was an amazing 9 months where just everything happened. So I was in a plane crash in a Boeing 727 in Eritrea, a gun battle between the Israelis and the Palestinians. I had a gun to my head in the Montenegro-Kosovo border. And I went to revisit Rwanda, and some of my friends, my colleagues, had been arrested for genocide in 95 when I left. And I went to visit some of them in prison, and that was a really freaky experience 6 years later. And it was a life-changing experience. I got a job in Somalia on the way down, which I went back to after I finished. And yeah, so I started again, and then
so Croatia is easygoing compared to that.
Yeah. It's funny because I've done a few crazy things in my life, but when I came to Croatia in 2002, at the age of 33, I travelled to 95 countries, and I'd lived in 10. And I was not for settling down at all. The reason I wanted was just to have a place to keep my books and somewhere to chill. And I had a job in Baghdad with the UN lined up. And then they blew up the UN compound. So then the UN evacuated, so that job got cancelled. And I had a job in Tajikistan, but that got cancelled. And then I met my wife and stayed and lived on this island for 13 years. And for somebody who travelled 95 countries, it was 16 years before I went to a new country. In 2019, I went to Malaysia to collect a media award. And I was really happy here. I didn't want to do that life anymore. I'd done that, and now I'd found this beautiful lifestyle on this wonderful island, learning a lot about olives and dialect and stuff. But it was perfect. It was a real sort of slowdown of life, and it was a complete change. And we had kids and stuff, so it was obviously bringing up a family. So it was fantastic. And Croatia is a complicated country. I think for foreigners, I wrote an article recently called "The 3 Stages of Learning for Foreigners in Croatia: Love, Hate, and Nirvana." And I would say that 85% of foreigners who come to Croatia love Croatia because they come for 2 weeks to the beach and they think this place is just amazing. The girls are beautiful, the beer's cheap, and the culture and the scenery and everything is fantastic. And then you get the expats who stay, and they go, "This is an amazing place. I want to live here, start a life here, maybe do a business here." And then they come across the reality of what Croatia is really like, and they get really, really frustrated. And then you get maybe 1 or 2% of foreigners who live here, who come here, and they experience what I call nirvana. And they basically go through the love, they go through the hate, and then it comes to the old prayer, accept the things you cannot change, have the courage to change the things you can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And once you acknowledge that and accept that, and just say, this place is amazing, but it does have its limitations, it's fantastic. And so, I hadn't heard the word uhljeb until Index, of course, in 2015.
When we coined that.
Yeah. When I did a story about bus timetables in Jelsa, about the tourist board of Jelsa, and suddenly Index twisted this into this uhljeb thing. So I put on my Facebook, what does uhljeb mean? I've never heard it, And so started an education and a new chapter in my life. The way I look at Croatia is it's a bit like living in Norway if you're an alcoholic. Because Norway has a great lifestyle for those that like that kind of lifestyle, but it's 10 euros for a beer, right? But you're happy to pay the 10 euros for a beer because you want the lifestyle of Norway. And in the same way here, the way I now live is, this is the best lifestyle in Europe, and there is a cost, and it's called the uhljeb tax. So if you pay that tax, and mentally you've then paid it and it's gone, then you're free to enjoy the lifestyle and everything else without.
Was it hard to get used to it?
I didn't even know it existed until literally 2015.
So it's so Croatia specific.
So you just think because foreigners here live in a bubble. Because all they see is the sunshine. Most don't speak the language.
Yes, because they don't stay long enough.
Well, but
even if they do,
even the ones that do, they exist within other expat communities, and so they all feed off each other.
It's a bubble. basically.
And so a lot of them read like Total Croatian News every day religiously, because that's the only way they actually find out what's going on in the country, because they don't speak the language and stuff. And so, and I was in that bubble. I was on a beautiful island. Everything was perfect. The bureaucracy was a bit slow. I just thought this was socialist. I'd lived in the Soviet Union, so I knew about that sort of mentality. And it was literally only when I started this news portal, Total Croatian News, in 2015, I had no idea what I was doing, that I started to learn the realities of Croatia. And when I started, just to show how naive I was, I interviewed Josipovic in the presidential campaign. I had no idea which party he was from, if he was SDP or how they say it, no idea whatsoever. And I really wanted to make an impression on the first day of our new portal. So I really wanted to impress the diaspora, because they were my target audience. They love Croatia, don't speak Croatian, so we would be a perfect bridge between the two. And so I wanted a really good interview on the first day as a statement of intent. And I got the foreign minister, which is pretty good for you know. And I went and I did this great interview with the foreign minister, and I put it out, and the amount of hatred I got from the diaspora when they saw me interviewing Vesna Pusic, and they just thought this is another Tito sort of kind of stuff. And I, you know, I knew who Tito was, of course I did, but I had no idea the level of division that there is, and so it's been a massive learning curve all the way through, and I love it, honestly.
So did the life in Croatia change you in
Totally.
any way, in good ways and bad ways? Did you rub off some of this chaos?
I think it's changed me only in good ways. It's made me... So I have a saying about Dalmatia particularly. I came here and I was thinking, wow, so much opportunity that we don't have this, we don't have this. I can do this, we'll make this, we'll make all this money, and the locals need this, and then they'll thank us for this and stuff. And then I realized after there was this local resistance to everything, and I was like, what's wrong with these people, you know? And then it took me a long time to realize that they didn't actually want it. You know, there's a reason there's no Starbucks. There's a reason that Subway failed. There's a reason, you know, that there's only like 3 Burger Kings in the country and so on. And it took me 15 years to formulate one sentence of advice for people coming off the plane. And so people come in with all their ideas, their Western sort of mindset and money and capitalism and so on, and then they hit Dalmatia. And I say to people, like, if you can listen to this one sentence and you can understand it, accept it, live by it, Dalmatia will be paradise for you. If, like me, you would hear the sentence and go, nah, not for me, and you'd ignore it, and you go on your own separate journey, and then you come back to the sentence years later and go, maybe it's something in it. And the sentence is very simple. It's, do not try and change Dalmatia, but expect Dalmatia to change you. And if you can really understand what that means as a foreigner and live by that, this place is it's paradise on earth.
What's your prognosis for Croatian tourism? Will it and can it get better, or will we just coast along on like blind luck, coincidence?
It can be incredible, and you know, the 3 things that we should sell Croatia on, in my opinion. Not that I'm a tourism expert, and I've been reminded in my court case, I've been reminded by the National Tourist Board that I'm not a tourism expert. I never claimed to be a tourism expert. But my opinions after 10 years of writing about Croatian tourism is the 3 things that we should offer are safety, lifestyle, and authentic experiences. We are now in the world of remote work, where people are looking to have a change of direction, to have somewhere where they can move somewhere for 1 or 2 months or 3 months or 6 months and have somewhere that's safe, somewhere where the lifestyle's amazing, where they can work and really have a great lifestyle, and somewhere where they can try something that they wouldn't try anywhere else. Croatia is the world champion for authentic experiences. And so a year ago, every year, so it's next week actually, there's a great event on Brač called the World Championships of Olive Picking. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but it's in Postira. It's in its 5th year this year. And you have teams from all around the world, 2 girls, 2 boys, and they have to pick olives against each other. And it's some Dalmatian guy who's got a big olive grove, he's a bit lazy, and he's got other people to pick his olives, so he's a smart guy, you know. And, you know, they've now built a 3 or 4 day festival around this sort of stuff, and it's a really great, authentic experience. And so last year, My Australian partner in Digital Nomads, Tanya, she was with 4 nomads having a drink in Split, one from Japan, Holland, England and Wales. And they called and said, can we enter a digital nomad olive picking team? And they were like, yes, you can. So they had the extra virgin digital nomad olive picking team. They made T-shirts, they made a video. They came 5th, I think. They were on national television in Norway and in Holland and in Croatia. And I just thought, what an amazing, authentic experience that must have been for those people. And if we'd advertised that on the expat groups in Split, nomad groups in Split, you'd have had 30 or 40 people. The next week, I was at a press conference in Zagreb for Zagreb County Tourist Board, Ivana Alilovic. And they have this great thing called Via Vino, which every year they have open cellars in the month of October, combined with art, culture, cinema. So they had the James Bond movie in the Korak winery, sitting on straw bales with blankets, roast chestnuts, and young Portuguese wine. I mean, what an incredibly fantastic experience. And I said to her, would you like me to bring like 50 nomads to this? Because we have a big group and we can bring people. And she's like, no, that's way too many, but would they like to go truffle hunting in Turopolje? And I'm like, yeah. And then I realized, what am I doing? You know, we are Croatia, you know, we have the sun and sea, but we are, if you look to the future, we are the country which has more authentic, original experiences at a very local level all over the country, 365 days of the year. So there's always something going on. It's very, very badly promoted or whatever else, but it's there. And in an age of globalization where people are looking for somewhere safe and people are looking for somewhere that has lifestyle and good internet and that they can actually come and chill and experience, incredible. So I put together a concept called Chromads, which we're still working on, where I put this into 5 different categories. And I said we have natural Croatia, so things like the lavender harvest on Hvar or making silk in Konavle. We have sports and adrenaline, so we have sailing and kayaking, but we also have pizzigin and we also have škraping in Pashman and all these local sports that only exist in Croatia. Then we have traditional Croatia, things like Zakrižan, Sveti Vlaho, Sveti Duja, and every single place has one of those somewhere. And then we have gourmet, which we don't just talk about the gourmet. And then we have what I call innovation 5-star Croatia, where we have the tour of the Remats thing or the Infobip or Osijek Software City, all that kind of stuff, because all these people are into IT. And you put that all into a calendar of what's going on.
It's a full year.
It's a full year, and that's sustainable 12-month tourism. And so what I did was I said, okay, so how do we do this best? Is if we do a video experience through the eyes of a digital nomad. So I contacted Gariful on Hvar about a year ago. And I've known Ivan for 10 years. I used to blog for him years ago. And he started, the first ever event I wrote about for Total Hvar in 2011 was a thing called Peshka Fondo, which was this squid fishing championship on Hvar to extend the season. And to be honest, it was pretty crap. There were like 30 people that came and 7 teams, and you know they had a festa in his restaurant. Everything was fine, but it was a nice social evening, but nothing special. And then it was his 10th anniversary, and he had like 72 teams from all over Croatia, from Poland, from Bosnia, from Slovenia, from Italy, and like 1,500 people. And so I said to him, "Listen, we're starting this new platform called Chromads about authentic experiences. So I'm going to send you 3 nomads from New Zealand who are good at, they make film as well, in the first week of November in the rain to Hvar. And they were a bit reluctant, but they went with my thing. And they had one of the best weekends. They couldn't believe that this dead island had such a vibrant thing, and there was just it was fabulous. You know, it's absolutely fabulous. And so we did a Chromads Experience video of that. So then that goes into the calendar, yeah? And then the next week, Tanya from Saltwater, she has this thing called Nomad Table, where she partners up with Zinfandel in Split, and they have a set menu for 180 kuna with a little bit of entertainment, and then icebreakers and stuff. And then if you're a nomad, you can come to this table and you can network and meet other people and everything else. So it's a really good social thing. So we invited Puljak, the mayor, to come. Jan de Jong came. And so we made a video of that. So suddenly with those 2 videos, there is life in Split and Dalmatia just with those 2 things. And the idea is to build that up around the country through the eyes of nomads as they go and do these things. And, I've just been to the Bikliada Vrgorac, where the goat milk and red wine festival. It was nuts, But these are things that don't exist anywhere else, and these are things that people want to come and experience. And if you can come to, say, Dalmatia in November, because it's going to be cheaper to stay there, and there's going to be life and a community and things like that to do, this is how you build long-term tourism.
Of course, so let's finish up with the survival kit.
Okay.
Tell us something about it. Promote it.
Oh, I'm not very good at promotion, but so it all started. I was following a woman on LinkedIn called Dina Chelakovic. She's a Croat and she's a copywriter, and she grew her LinkedIn from 700 to almost 40,000 just by writing great advice about writing. And she said basically, if you want to make money, all you need is a LinkedIn account and a laptop and a niche, and then the inland leads will come to you. So I thought, well, I've been here 20 years. I can do Croatia. So I thought, why don't I do a series called 20 Things That Changed Me in Croatia in 20 years? So the first one I did was about business in Dalmatia. And I gave that sentence, do not try and change Dalmatia, but expect Dalmatia to change you. And it got like 500 likes on LinkedIn. And a lot of people are going, wow, this is just amazing. And the next one was about the olive harvest. And somebody said, I'm crying. I'm in Australia and I really miss it and stuff. And the one about safety, somebody else was crying and stuff. And so I was a lot of tears going. And then one woman said, this is really, really interesting stuff. And we've just opened an office in Zagreb. And we have 40 international staff. And we are desperately looking for a book that explains the madness of Croatia to foreigners in a way that they would understand. And this would be great. Would you consider turning this into a book? And I just thought, easy to do. And then as I wrote more and more people were complimentary about this series I was doing. And then I just thought, well, let's do this. And then I thought, Remats has got thousands of foreigners coming in, and Infobip have got this. And there's now a really big shift that people here still don't see of foreigners coming. This is the new revolution. It's tourism, of course, but it's work for the IT sector, and it's remote work. People looking to go to Croatia for the authenticity, the lifestyle, and the safety. It's a seismic thing that's still under the radar. And so I thought, well, I could just do a book, or I could try and create a Bible, which we could update. So if I had my this is what it's like, my experiences, and then we had a second section, which was much more practical, how to get an OIB, how to find a dentist, how to find accommodation, how to meet people, that kind of stuff, then that would be a really good welcome gift for a Remats employee, for example. And so I asked my editor Lauren Simmons, who's she can make opening a bank account in Croatia sound hilariously funny, and she gives fantastic practical advice. So I asked her if she'd like to co-write the book, and so she wrote a brilliant section from everything from what kind of snakes you have in Croatia to where to take your pet and everything else. And she's really, really thorough. And I've done my side of things, which is kind of entertaining and sort of like 20 years of experience. And the idea is that you get the feeling of this is what the madness of Croatia is, and these are the situations, good, bad, and ugly. I didn't just say it was all beautiful. And then this is the practical kind of thing together. And so it's about 104,000 words. It's literally just gone out on Amazon Kindle, like just 10 minutes before we met today. And if I can get the technology right, it'll be out on Amazon paperback, on print on demand, and on Amazon later this week. And then we're also printing it, and it'll be in the bookshops in Hoću knjigu, and I think Školska knjiga and others. And I'm doing an 8-city book tour to Varaždin, Zagreb, Split, Dubrovnik, Rijeka, Zadar, Pula, Osijek, and Vukovar. And the idea there is we'll go to a bookshop, we'll have a signing, and then we'll go to the pub afterwards, and we'll have drinks and stuff. And if anybody wants to come and talk tourism or whatever, then we'll go and get drunk. And we've had pre-sales of almost 1,000, and we haven't actually even told people what the price is yet. So it's really, really encouraging. And so now I'm talking to some of the bigger companies in Croatia about doing bespoke editions, so they can put a chapter about their company and a welcome from the CEO, and we can change the cover and then put their brand on it and so on for a thing. And so we've had some inquiries about that as well. So, and the idea is just to give great advice, to keep it honest, keep it real, and just show that this is an absurd but magical country.
Thank you. Good luck with the book.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Pozdrav.